Recent statements by Christian Horner, Red Bull's team principal, have raised intriguing questions about the possibility of Russell leaving Mercedes. We'll analyze Horner's statements and their implications, as well as Russell's current contract situation with Mercedes. We'll go beyond the surface, exploring factors that could influence a possible team change for Russell, including the comparative performance between Mercedes and Red Bull, the internal dynamics of the teams, and the career aspirations of the British driver. Additionally, we'll consider what Russell could potentially bring to Red Bull if a transfer were to happen. However, such a move wouldn't come without challenges. We'll delve into the contractual, financial, and strategic obstacles both teams would face to make this transfer a reality. Make sure to subscribe to the channel for more content that goes beyond the headlines, exploring the less visible but crucial aspects of the sport. Now, let's get to the point. Let's start by dissecting the bombshell that Christian Horner dropped. During the Singapore GP, the Red Bull boss said something that left everyone stunned. He stated, quite openly, "George Russell is out of contract at the end of next year. It would be foolish not to consider that." But hold on, that's not all. Horner didn't stop there. He made sure to emphasize that Red Bull isn't afraid to step out of the pool, meaning they're open to talents outside their own junior driver program. And let's be honest, Russell is too big a fish to let slip, right? Now, you might be wondering, but why is Red Bull eyeing Russell? Well, here's the thing. The team is in a phase of reevaluation. Perez hasn't been delivering as expected, and they're looking toward the future. Horner even mentioned other young talents like Colapinto, Behrman, and Antonelli, but made it clear that Russell is on their radar. And what did Toto Wolff think of all this? Well, the Mercedes boss wasn't happy at all. He said that Horner is always stirring the pot, and that George has always been a Mercedes driver and, according to him, always will be. But is that really the case? Let's get serious about Russell's situation with Mercedes. His current contract runs until the end of 2025. Sounds far off, right? But in F1, we know things move fast. And here's an important detail. Young Kimi Antonelli is arriving in 2025 to replace Hamilton. Russell himself has talked about this. He said, "We haven't talked about it, to be honest. I've been with this team for a long time. I'm managed by Mercedes, and we've always said we'd stay together for the indefinite future." Sounds confident, doesn't it? But in F1, indefinite can mean a lot of things. Plus, Toto Wolff has already declared that the team's focus is now on Russell and Antonelli. He even said he stopped flirting with other drivers and is committed to this duo for the future. Now comes the million-dollar question. What could make Russell swap Mercedes for Red Bull? First, let's talk about performance. Mercedes isn't dominating as it once did. Meanwhile, Red Bull, well, they're doing better than Mercedes. There's also the pressure factor. With Hamilton leaving for Ferrari in 2025, Russell will become the team leader. Sounds great, right? But it's a lot of responsibility. He'll have to lead car development, motivate the team, and still deal with a talented rookie like Antonelli. It's not for everyone. But there's a crucial point here: competitiveness. Mercedes is in a rebuilding phase, trying to get back to the top. Red Bull, while not in its prime, is currently the second force on the grid. For Russell, who has already proven his talent, it might be tempting to join a team where he'd have a chance to fight for wins and championships from the get-go. And it's not just that. Red Bull's culture of giving chances to young talents might be appealing. They're not afraid to bet on promising drivers, as they did with Verstappen. For Russell, who has moved past the promising talent stage and wants to establish himself as a star, this could be a game changer. Of course, the decision isn't easy. Mercedes has invested heavily in Russell since his junior categories. There's a whole history there. But we know that in F1, sometimes you need to take a step back to take 2 steps forward. Is Russell willing to make that bet? We've talked a lot about Russell, Mercedes, and Red Bull, but now let's turn the tables and think, what would Russell bring to Red Bull if this transfer actually happened? First, let's talk pure skill. Russell isn't called Mr. Saturday for nothing. The guy is a beast in qualifying. Imagine him with a Red Bull car in his hands. Q3 qualification every race with high chances of pole. But it's not just speed. Russell has a great head for strategy and car development. He grew up in Mercedes, a team known for its technical approach. This experience would be valuable for Red Bull, especially considering the regulatory changes coming up. And there's more. Russell is young, but already has experience with wins and podiums. He knows what it's like to be under pressure from a big team. This could bring an interesting balance to the team, especially if Verstappen decides to leave. You never know in F1, right? Speaking of Verstappen, how would this partnership play out? Well, it would be interesting to see Russell, who isn't afraid to face strong teammates, since he's up against Hamilton, right? Share the garage with Max. It could be an explosive duo, in both good and bad ways. Now let's be realistic. This Russell to Red Bull transfer isn't that simple. There are many obstacles in the way. First, loyalty. Russell grew up in Mercedes' young driver program. They've invested in him since his karting days. This kind of connection is hard to break. Even Toto Wolff has said he sees Russell as part of the Mercedes family. Then there's the contractual issue. Russell is signed until the end of 2025. For Red Bull to get him before that, they'd have to negotiate with Mercedes. And let's be honest, Toto won't make Christian Horner's life easy. There's also the financial side. Red Bull would have to make a substantial offer to convince Russell to swap an established team like Mercedes for a new challenge. And with F1's budget cap, every penny counts. Another point is the reaction from the fans. Russell has a strong fan base at Mercedes. A move to Red Bull could be seen as betrayal by some. Would this affect his image? It's something to consider. And let's not forget the media. This transfer would be the talk of the year in F1. Russell would have to handle enormous pressure. Is he ready for that? Lastly, there's the Verstappen factor. Red Bull is clearly built around Max. Could Russell fit into that environment? Or would he prefer to be the clear number one at Mercedes after Hamilton's departure? All right, folks, we've covered everything. From Red Bull's interest in Russell, his situation at Mercedes, the reasons for a potential change, what he'd bring to Red Bull, to the obstacles for this transfer to happen. In the end, what can we say? Well, the F1 driver market is unpredictable. What seems impossible today could become reality tomorrow. Russell moving to Red Bull would be a huge shift in the grid, but it also makes sense for him to stay with Mercedes and lead the team's rebuild. What do you think? Should Russell put all his chips on Mercedes, or do what no one expects and move to Red Bull? Leave your opinion in the comments, and don't forget to smash that like button and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any news. Who knows? Maybe in future videos we'll be talking about the official announcement of this transfer. Thanks, folks. Until next time.